Woods have always been a place of horror for many people. Something uncertain lurks behind the trees and invites our imagination to fill in the dots. But in this story, written by EaPaTbp, we find a person who can certainly tell you that there are things in the woods. The woods have always been empty. Up until recently, that is. I'm not sure which is worse, the empty darkness, or the things that are now hiding in it. I've never been a fan of the woods, as there was always something that seemed a bit off to me. Even in the middle of the day, they would look dark and menacing. The trees poked at the sky, and the breeze would push the dead leaves and twigs along the ground. My paranoia could never differentiate between the sound of a harmless gust of wind rustling through the leaves and the sound of footsteps, and because of this, I tried my best to avoid the woods at all costs. This was not so simple, however, considering that I lived right at the edge of the woods. My mother would have called this an irrational fear, and in a way, I think she would have been correct. Not anymore, though. Not when something is residing in there, lurking in the shadows. I've noticed that most of the creatures, at least the ones that I've seen, tend to stay within a few feet of the woods, never really wandering into the road or my backyard. I find some comfort in this, although not much, as I don't have to worry about them getting into my house and eating me alive. The first one that I saw was a creature that looked like a snake. It was as thick as a tree trunk and about 5 feet long. It was black and slimy, with 2 bright red slits for eyes and a mouth that had no teeth. That was somehow scarier than having teeth. I watched it one day as I hid behind my curtain. It slid across the grass in my backyard, never coming too close to my house, but staring directly at the back door the whole time. After a few minutes of moving back and forth across the lawn, it stopped and stared straight at me. When that happened, I felt my face and ears burn with heat as my heart sped up in my chest in fear. I quickly shut the curtain and backed away from the window, but I could still feel it staring at me, its gaze penetrating through the window glass and the curtains. I didn't sleep at all that night. The sound of the creature sliding back and forth across the lawn kept me up until the sun rose, and it finally retreated into the woods. That day, I attempted to leave my house to buy some groceries, but when I opened my front door, a giant insect flew right past my face. I jumped back as it buzzed, loud, like it was shaking everything around it. I made the mistake of swatting at it, and it stung me. I ran back inside to look at the sting, and I realized that it wasn't a sting at all. It was a bite. I had the indentation of a small set of teeth on the back of my hand. One small, but the incredibly sharp tooth was stuck in my hand still, and I took it out, causing a flash of pain followed by a sudden flow of blood. I set the tooth on the kitchen counter as I washed the injury and focused on stopping the blood. Outside the window, I could hear the same buzzing sound, only this time it was 10 times louder. I pulled back the curtain and looked out to see dozens of those things hovering outside my house. These were the creatures who got the closest to my home, and they were also, by far, the most dangerous. Up close, I was able to make out more of them. They looked like balls of lint, light brown and about the size of a golf ball, with black wings that moved in a blur. They had a round mouth with a set of teeth that looked human, only a lot sharper, and they didn't appear to have eyes. They flew into the glass a few times like they were trying to get in. More and more of them came out from the woods until the buzzing was shaking my house and causing picture frames to fall off the walls. It lasted about 10 minutes before they slowly made their way back to the woods. Nothing came out for the rest of the day, but I was still too frightened to go anywhere. The bite on the back of my hand was bruised a deep purple color, and there was some dried up blood around the injury, but it hurt to even run water over it. I tried not to scream as I washed it again and attempted to clean the wound once again, but the pain was too much. I ended up taking a few painkillers and falling asleep on the couch. I woke up in the middle of the night to find that there was an eerie blue light coming from the window. I was too scared to get up and see what it was, but the silhouette on the curtain looked like it was in the shape of a human, only it was glowing. I stared at it, almost like I was physically unable to look away. I couldn't tell how far away from the window it was, and the light was hypnotizing. The longer I stared, the more terrified I felt. It was an intense amount of fear, the kind that makes your chest feel heavy and your breath feel shallow. I felt dizzy. My face and my fingertips began to tingle, and I was suddenly nauseous. But still, despite all this, I couldn't look away. The light got brighter, and it was starting to hurt my eyes. The shape of the thing outside the window began to change. First, it grew 2 other arms from each side, and then the head got bigger. Then the body started to change until I realized that it appeared to be morphing into a firefly. I was finally able to look away, and I closed my eyes and rubbed them to make sure that I wasn't just seeing things. But I wasn't. The thing was still there, right outside my window, glowing and filling my house with its eerie light. I don't remember falling asleep again, or waking up for that matter. I suddenly found myself standing in the middle of the living room, still facing the window, only there was normal sunlight coming through it now. No weird, glowing insects. Still, just to be sure, I slowly walked to the window and peeled back the curtain just an inch to make sure. The yard was empty. I sighed in relief, but I was still paranoid. I kept expecting something to pop out of nowhere, and the more time that passed, the more paranoid and anxious that I got. I want to leave my house. I want to get out and go as far away from these woods as I can. But I'm unable to leave. I feel like I'm stuck in this house, like I'm a part of the house that can't be removed. The atmosphere here has changed, and it no longer feels like home. I feel heavy, anxious, and paranoid. I can't shake the feeling that I'm being watched. I almost made it out today. Almost. But I just can't leave. I can see things staring at me from the woods. I know that they're waiting for me to come out, so they can get me. I don't know what they want, but I don't want to find out. I miss when the woods were empty. I miss when I couldn't see the things that were watching me.